Aha. Hey, what's going on today, guys? Alright, so today's video is going to be all about my morning routine, how I perform it, simple little tips that you can do. And it's not anything too crazy, like 10 minutes of your morning. Trust me, you have enough time. But I believe everybody should have a morning and nightly routine if you're super stiff. But you need to get those hip flexors and low back unlocked because you're probably sitting at a desk all day or you're working hard, long hours. So your body's just going to be tight. So let's get right into it. Alright, first stretch is the greatest stretch. Be on all fours. Get that one leg up by your hands. Open up the arms and reach for the sky. From there, you're going to do 5 times on each arm. Then you're going to come to the outside of that leg, point the toes up, and then back those hips up and flex your quad to stretch the hamstring. Do 10 of those as well. Alright, so from here, this is going to be called a glute 90-90 stretch. So, hence the 90-90. You're going to have 90-degree joint ankles at the hip, knee, and ankle. Then you're going to come down to that knee and stretch the back of that glute. Lumbar flexion is all okay. Sometimes it's not if you're going to do a squat day or deadlift day, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is a hamstring glide. That lead leg is straight. The left leg right now is bent. You're going to come down and glide onto those toes. And then the same thing with the lumbar. It's okay to have that curve, all right? So the next one is going to be a hip flexor stretch. So be in that half kneeling position. Squeeze the glute forward. Hips right under you. No low back arch. So from here, I'm going to have my hand on the inside and lean away from the stretch.
So I basically
See
just
how my
gave you guys a
glutes are
breakdown
activated forward?
of how to do the stretches, but now I'm going to explain a little bit more about how they actually work. So the greatest stretch, in its name, it kind of is the greatest stretch. So that hip is up, so you're getting range of motion in the hip capsule. So from there, your lower back is also in a little bit of flexion, and your hips are in flexion as well. So you're getting glute and lumbar mobility right there. As soon as you start rotating and reaching for the sky, you're not just using your shoulder, you're using your T-spine to actually rotate. So both of those are going together as well, so T-spine and shoulder mobility. And do it on both sides, 5 times on each side, and squeeze your back muscles as well to help you if you're not very good in that position. And then also when you come over to the hamstring, make sure you point those toes up so that it lengthens the back of that leg, all right? So then with the glute 90-90, it's not just your glute, it is your low back, it is the hamstring, but you're also getting some external rotation with that as well in that hip. So if you have external rotation issues, boom, right there, glute stretch. And with the hamstring glides, so you want to keep that leg straight, and if you can stretch that back leg more, you want to flex the quad more. And this is called a antagonistic stretch. You flex one muscle, the joint on the other side has to stabilize, and the muscle on the other side gets a deeper stretch. So what I meant by keeping lumbar flexion here and there is okay sometimes is because, let's say you want to go into a squat and deadlift day, right? Like I said, you don't want low back flexion. You don't want that curve in your spine because that's not a good position. You want to break your back, get a bulging disc now. So if you have that lumbar curve, and when you go into these stretches, you're basically compensating and relying on your low back to actually go deeper, well, your body's going to do the exact same thing when you're in a squat and a deadlift. So try not to get used to that. Don't over rely on your low back to actually get into those positions, because as soon as you get into that deeper range of motion, it's going to say, okay, so we know that our low back can help us. We don't have the mobility in our glute or our hamstring. Low back's right there, boom, right there. So I would say if you're going to do a squat or deadlift day, keep that core braced, low back like this, and go forward. Don't try to bend down, because that's going to be your low back trying to get down. And it's actually a lot harder, in my opinion, more effective overall. But if you're just doing a normal routine or anything, any morning, you don't have to do that. You know, it's based off of preference, really, but that's just straight for a deadlift or squat day. And then with your hip flexor, so that muscle gets crazy tight, especially on people who run because your knee is always going in flexion, or your hip is always going in flexion, is always coming up high, high, high. And then if you're also sitting, so if your leg is in this position, the muscle right there in the hip is going to get it's going to get shortened and get super tight. So with that, they could be really strong, but the thing is, if they're super tight, hip extension is super hard. So that's going to turn off those glutes like a lot, honestly. So if you sit in an office all day or you run a lot, I mean, even if you don't do those things, they're going to be tight. But the hip flexor runs from the top of the femur all the way up to L4 and L5 on your spine. So it actually runs through your hip, so off of the top of your acetabulum and the femur, off of your femur actually. But it goes in, so your hips are right here. It comes on the inside of that hip all the way into your spine right here, and it connects on your actual spine. So you can see how that would actually give you low back pain, right? So that's a lower cross syndrome right there, where you have a tight low back and you have a tight hip flexor, and then all of a sudden your abdomen, your abdominal muscles and your glutes are weak. So all of a sudden your pelvis goes into this this posterior tilt, and all of a sudden you have low back pain. Who would have knew, right? So that's my basic morning routine. Like I said, I think everybody should have one, and if you're super stiff or you're just getting into it, do it in the nighttime. You know, it only takes like 5 or 10 minutes if you get really into it, and boom, right there, you're gonna feel better within 3 to 4 weeks, and your workouts are gonna feel better. Also, do it before your workouts, even if it's an upper body day, you know. So that's the takeaway, is morning routines helps with a lot of different things, and it just feels good. You know, like, who wants to be tight? So that's my video for today, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you next time. All right, see ya.